You can't relax. Sit down for 10 minutes and a voice in your skull goes, "Shouldn't you be doing something?" That's not laziness, not low willpower, not a character flaw. It's a 10,000-year-old bug, a guilt reflex installed by wheat. Stay with me, because by the end of this, you're going to understand why your brain treats a perfectly good afternoon nap like a moral failing. And you're going to realize the guilt isn't a sign that something's wrong with you. It's a sign that something went wrong with everybody a very long time ago. Subscribe if you want more of the ancient bugs quietly running your life. There's a disturbing number of them. Let's start with the part nobody tells you. Your brain was not built to feel guilty about resting, just the opposite. For the overwhelming majority of human history, the smartest thing you could possibly do was stop. The moment the work was done. Full stop. No bonus round. Picture your ancestors, not the ones in the suits. The earlier model. Hunter-gatherers. Foragers. People who lived off the land for hundreds of thousands of years before anyone invented the spreadsheet. You probably imagine their lives as a brutal grind, constant struggle, clawing at dirt for a single berry while a saber-tooth eyes them like a snack. That's the story you were sold. It's wrong. Here's where it gets interesting. In 1966, an anthropologist named Richard B. Lee went to live with the Juhonzi people of the Kalahari Desert. Hostile environment, almost no rain. The kind of place that should produce people working themselves to the bone just to survive. So Lee did something simple. He timed them. How many hours did they actually spend getting food? The answer was roughly 15 hours a week. Let that sink in. They were beating your work week by a landslide in a desert with sticks. So what did they do with the rest of the time? Brace yourself. They rested. They talked. They told stories. They visited relatives, which, fine. Maybe that was its own kind of work. They napped. They sat around. And, crucially, none of them felt guilty about it. Not one Kalahari forager has ever lain in the shade thinking, "I really should be optimizing my morning routine." The anthropologist Marshall Solins took this idea and ran with it. He called these societies the original affluent society. Affluent. As in, rich. His point was sharp and a little bit savage. These people weren't rich because they had a lot. They were rich because they wanted little, and they got it fast, and then they were done. They hit their needs and clocked out. Your brain, the one you're using to feel bad about a nap, is still running that original software. Work until the task is done. Then stop. Then enjoy it. Remember that phrase, then stop. We're coming back to it, and it's going to hurt. So here's the obvious question. If your ancestors had it so good, lounging around the original affluent society, what happened? Who broke it? Who looked at a perfectly relaxed species and decided what it really needed was deadlines? The answer is farming. And I cannot stress this enough. Farming was a catastrophe. I know. You were taught the opposite. Agriculture, the great leap forward. The dawn of civilization, the moment clever humans tamed the land and unlocked progress. Cute story. The anthropologist and geographer Jared Diamond wrote an essay with a title that does not mess around. He called it "The Worst Mistake in the History of the Human Race." He was talking about farming, not nuclear weapons, not reality television. Farming. Why was it a mistake? Think about what a crop actually is. A forager finds food. A farmer makes food. And making food never, ever ends. The forager picks the berry and walks away. The farmer plants the seed, then waters it, then guards it, then weeds it, then frets about it, then waters it again, then panics about rain, then harvests it, then stores it, then immediately starts worrying about next year's seed. There is no then stop. The task is never done. The task was specifically designed by the universe to never be done, just to spite you. And here's the genuinely cruel twist. The skeletons agree. When you look at the remains of early farmers compared to the foragers who came before them, the farmers are shorter. They have worse teeth. More signs of malnutrition, more disease, more back-breaking repetitive strain. They traded a varied diet of dozens of wild foods for a monotonous pile of one or two crops. They worked harder, ate worse, got sicker, and died younger. Congratulations on the progress. So why did anyone do it? Why trade the original affluent society for a life of mud and grain anxiety? Because farming had one killer feature. It could feed more people per acre. More people, packed tighter, eating cheaper, lower quality calories. It didn't make individuals better off. It made groups bigger. And a bigger, more miserable group can always outmuscle a smaller, happier one. So the relaxed foragers got pushed out, and the anxious farmers inherited the earth. Survival of the most stressed. You are their descendant. You feel it every Sunday night. But hold on. Working hard on a farm because you'll literally starve otherwise, that's not guilt. That's just consequences. A growling stomach is a great motivator, but it isn't a voice in your head calling you a lazy disappointment. So where did the actual guilt come from? The feeling? The shame? Because here's the thing. You don't farm. Most of you have never grown a single calorie in your life, and yet you feel like a sinner for watching 3 episodes in a row. The starvation explains the work. It does not explain the shame. For that, we need the second piece of software. The upgrade nobody asked for. Enter a German sociologist named Max Weber. Around 1905, Weber wrote a book about something he called the Protestant work ethic. And to be clear, Weber wasn't dunking on religion. He was pointing at one specific strand. Calvinist, Puritan-flavored thinking. That quietly turned hard work into a scoreboard for your soul. Not all of Protestantism. Not faith itself. One narrow thread. Now, stay with me, because this is where the guilt gets installed. Weber noticed that this particular strand of religious thinking had quietly performed a magic trick. It took work, plain old labor, and turned it into a sign of moral worth, of virtue. Possibly even a sign that you were one of the saved. Think about how insane that is. For most of human history, work was just a thing you did so you could stop doing it. Weber's observation was that a cultural shift flipped this completely. Now, working hard wasn't the means to an end. It became the end. It became proof that you were a good person. And, by the brutal logic of the flip side, resting became proof that you weren't. Within that worldview, idleness wasn't just unproductive anymore. It was a character flaw. It was suspect. The thing you should feel bad about. So let's stack the software updates, because they are gloriously dumb. Layer 1. A forager brain, 10,000 years old, wired to work until the task is done and then happily collapse. Layer 2. Farming, which deleted the then happily collapse part by making sure the task is never, ever done. Layer 3. A work ethic culture that came along and said, "Oh, you wanted to rest? That's not just unwise. That's suspect." 3 incompatible programs running at once on hardware that just wanted to take a nap. No wonder you feel broken. You're running a relaxation operating system with productivity malware bolted on top. Quick one. What does your brain guilt trip you for resting from? Drop it in the comments. I read them. I'm genuinely collecting the weirdest ones. Now here's the counterintuitive twist. And it's a good one. You'd think all this guilt at least makes you more productive. Surely if you feel bad about resting, you rest less, you work more, you win. Nope. The opposite happens. The guilt doesn't actually make you work. It makes you unable to rest while also being too anxious to work properly. You sit down to relax and you can't because of the guilt. So you reach for your phone. Yes, you, scrolling right now. You half watch a show while half checking email. You take a break that isn't a break and do work that isn't really work. You end up in a gray zone of doing nothing badly and everything anxiously. Your forager ancestor rested completely and worked completely. You do neither. You've invented a third option that's worse than both. Truly, a marvel of human innovation. And here's where I want to be careful with you. This isn't therapy. It's history. But history helps. Because once you can see where the feeling came from, it stops feeling like a verdict on who you are. And the modern world has lovingly weaponized this. Think about it. Hustle culture. The grind. Rise and grind. Sleep is for the weak. Every productivity guru selling you a 5 a.m. routine is just Max Weber with a podcast. We've taken a 10,000-year-old cultural bug and turned it into a personality, then sold it back to you as motivation. Your phone buzzes. A notification. A reminder. A nudge. The farm never sleeps, and now the farm lives in your pocket and follows you to bed. Here's the part that should genuinely annoy you. The guilt has no off switch built in. Remember, then stop? The forager's beautiful, sane instinct. Do the task, then stop. The whole problem is that modern life deleted the then stop, and the work ethic told you that wanting to stop makes you a bad person. So the natural endpoint of rest, that lovely feeling of, I'm done, I've earned this, can't fire properly. Your brain is waiting for a signal that the task is complete, and the signal never comes, Because in a world of infinite emails and endless laundry and a self-improvement industry worth billions, the task is structurally designed to never be complete. You are a forager waiting for permission to rest in a system that was built to never give it. So let's ask the only question that matters. Is the guilt true? When you feel that hum of shame for doing nothing, is it telling you something real about your character? Is it a moral fact? No. It is a bug. A 10,000-year-old cultural bug layered on top of a much older brain, running code that doesn't even match your actual life. You are not lazy for wanting to rest. You are a perfectly well-designed forager who got dropped into a farming and hustle world and handed a guilt complex you never agreed to download. The feeling is real, but what it's telling you is a lie. It's not a signal that you're failing. It's an echo, a ghost, the sound of wheat, 10 millennia ago, whispering that you can never, ever stop. Here's your one defense. Knowing the guilt is a glitch doesn't delete it, but it lets you stop believing it. The next time you sit down to rest and that little voice starts up, you don't have to argue with it. You don't have to earn your way past it. You just get to recognize it for what it is. Not your conscience, not the truth. Just a very old piece of software running on a brain that, deep down, has always known the right thing to do. Do the task. And then, the most radical, ancient, deeply human thing you can possibly do. Then stop. And if you want the next ancient bug we dig up, there's one about why you can't stop checking your phone that's even worse. Subscribe, and I'll see you there. But not right now. Right now, you've got something more important to do. So no, you didn't waste the afternoon. You scheduled it. You sat down. You did absolutely nothing. And for the first time in 10,000 years, that was exactly the point.